Butter chicken? What the hell is a butter chicken? Is that like a chicken with butter? I don't know. But we're gonna ask my Daduji what a butter chicken is. What's a butter chicken, Daduji?
Butter chicken or Murgh Makhani is a delicious Indian dish that is famous all over the world. It's soft, moist, succulent chicken cooked in rich tomato gravy. It's eaten with naan, which is an Indian flatbread. Rumor has it that a chef improvised using half a tandoori chicken when he ran out of ingredients to create a delicacy for the ruler of Murgh.
I guess that's what butter chicken is.
So I started by marinating this chicken a little while ago with just ginger garlic paste, some salt, a little bit of Kashmiri red chili and some coriander powder, and just let it be for an hour or so before you're ready to cook. So I'm going to start by frying this off in my pan. So get your pan nice and hot, and of course every recipe starts with oil in the pan. So you put about 2 tablespoons of oil in your pan and let it heat up. We're going to cook the chicken in this first and then make the gravy after that. So we're going to start putting our chicken in our hot oil. And I've cut the chicken into nice small pieces, that's how you like it in your butter chicken. And I'm using mixed boneless, mostly the leg and thigh, because I think that is the perfect piece of chicken suited for butter chicken. The chicken is about cooked now, and we're going to remove it from the pan. Leave all that lovely masala in. So you can see all the lovely masala here at the bottom of the pan, and we're going to add in a big chunk of butter to that. It is butter chicken at the end of the day. Into this we're going to throw 1 chopped onion. Now you can put a little bit of water in to kind of scrape off those delicious pan juices. So let these onions brown. I'm going to add a spoonful of cumin seeds to this. It's just like a winning combination, onion fried with cumin seeds. Let this cook. Next to this, I'm adding a very special powder which is mace and elaichi or cardamoms, green cardamoms. So you let this cook as well. You can add a little water to ensure nothing sticks, nothing burns, and you can actually smell the elaichi, it's delicious. Next, we add a small spoon, because we already marinated the chicken in ginger garlic paste, we're just putting a very small spoon of this. And now that this has all come together nicely, I'm going to put in my tomato puree. So mix this in well. I'm going to add a little bit of water to thin it out. Now at this point, I'm going to add a little bit of the Kashmiri chili, about half a spoon. If you wanted spicy, you could have fried a green chili with it much earlier. And of course the star of butter chicken, kasuri methi. So I'm going to put some of that in. And I'm going to stir this. You can see you've got a delicious, rich, beautiful gravy. Now you're going to have some of that residual water from the chicken when you cook it. So I'm going to pour some of that in now at this point. And put in a little more water. Just mix that all in. And lastly, salt to taste. So with a spoon of salt. Just mix everything in nicely. And just cover it up and let it cook on low for about 10 minutes. When the gravy looks about done, see it's nice and thick and chunky and rustic. Fantastic. Now I'm just going to add a spoon of sugar to this. It's optional, you don't have to. Just mix that in. Next I put the chicken into the sauce. Get all those juices in. Just mix that in nicely. And if you feel your gravy is too thick, you can always add a little bit of water. But look at that, that's so delicious. And it's almost ready. The final step is to add about a cup of fresh cream. Alright, we're going to pour our cream in. Look at that, you got that beautiful orange color coming out now. Absolutely divine. And look, you got a lot more gravy now. It's perfect. And there it is, delicious butter chicken. And once again, taste it at this point and season as required. So I'm just gonna let it cook for another 2 minutes, just so that the chicken can really absorb the flavors of the tomato gravy. Butter chicken is done. My version of a cheats butter chicken. Now while making your butter chicken, you either got to start with the butter or the chicken, and we're going to start with the chicken. So we're going to be taking boneless leg meat and cutting it up into nice bite-sized pieces. Don't use chicken breast because it will dry out. Buy some leg meat, buy some thigh meat, buy any meat except the breast meat. Anyway, once your chicken has been cut into nice small bite-sized pieces, it's time to marinate it. We're going to marinate the chicken with some salt, some turmeric, some red chili powder, some garam masala powder, some cumin powder, and some dried fenugreek leaves, or as we say in India, kasuri methi. Then you just give this all a good mix, and you want to let this marinate for at least 15 minutes. The next thing we're going to do is take some garlic, some ginger, some onions, some tomatoes, and we're going to put it in our blender and make a fresh and delicious puree to use in the butter chicken. Make sure you get that lid on and blitz this till it's a nice fine puree. And that's ready. Keep it aside till we start cooking. Now it's time to make that butter chicken, and I'm going to get my non-stick pan on the stove, and of course I'm going to heat up some olive oil, a good whole tablespoon. And now you want to keep your pan on the highest setting, and it's time to fry the chicken. So get the chicken in the pan and fry that chicken. Don't touch it, just put it down and let it cook and get some color on it. After about 2 minutes of cooking it on the highest heat, you're going to start flipping that chicken over. And oh yeah, look at that beautiful crust on the chicken. You want to get some nice color. You want those spices to get cooked. You want to create the Maillard reaction or the Maillard reaction. Color is everything on the chicken. And then I'm going to generously drop in butter all around the pan in different places. And we're using about 50 grams of butter. That's almost like 4 tablespoons. Well, 3 point something, but you get the idea. 50 grams of delicious salted butter, and just let that butter melt into the chicken. Oh yeah, that's food porn right there. Anyway, give it all a good mix. You'll see the chicken has got a lovely color on it. And then we're going to add in that lovely puree that we made with the onions, ginger, garlic and tomatoes. And don't forget to rinse out the blender, waste none of it. So take a little water, shake that blender and pour it into the pan and give it all a good mix. Once you've mixed everything together nicely, just cover it and let it cook for a good 10 minutes. You want to cook out the rawness and the tartness of the tomato and the onions and the ginger and the garlic. So after about 5 minutes, take the lid off, give it all a good mix, taste your sauce for seasoning and let it cook some more. Once it's cooked for a full 10 minutes, open it up, give it all a good mix, because that's what we do here on Headbangers Kitchen. Then what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the stove and we're going to pour in 100 ml of cream. This is just normal heavy whipping cream, and if you live outside India, you don't need to turn the heat off. This cream that I use curdles, so I don't keep the heat on. But anyway, mix that cream in and your butter chicken is almost ready. The only thing left to do is garnish it with some fresh coriander, because coriander is delicious. Anyway, enough jibber jabber. It looks like our butter chicken is ready and it looks absolutely mouth watering. Yum yum. Anyway, put it in a nice serving dish for artistic pleasure, I guess, and then make sure you serve it to the people who want to eat it. And today we're going to be baconizing the traditional Murgh Makhani, or butter chicken as we like to call it. That delicious, rich, creamy tomato gravy, now with bacon. So let's go and baconize that Murgh Makhani. So I'm using about half kilo of boneless chicken meat, and this is mostly leg and thigh. What I've done is I've marinated this in a little bit of ginger garlic paste, very little salt, red chili powder, coriander powder, and just let this marinate for about an hour or so, and then it's good to go. So we're going to start baconizing our Murgh Makhani by using some bacon, and we're going to put that into our hot pan. So we're using about 200 grams for this recipe, and we want the bacon to cook down and render out all that fat and become nice and crispy. And I've also cut the bacon into slightly biggish chunks because I like a good mouthful of bacon. Now you can see our bacon has become quite crispy and there is a crap load of oil, and we do not need so much oil, so we're going to drain out some of this oil. So now we've taken out a fair amount of the oil and it's time to add our chicken. And the idea is you want to cook off some of that raw masala and raw ginger garlic taste, and then almost make a gravy out of what is left in the pan. You know, those delicious pan drippings as we call them. So our chicken has been cooking for about 3 to 4 minutes now, and that's all we want to cook it. We don't want to overcook the chicken, so we're going to remove it right now from the pan. Okay, now you can see all these lovely juices left in the pan. And because it is butter chicken, we got to add some butter. Just let all that butter melt in. Now to this, we're going to add 1 chopped onion. And just let that fry in the butter. Next, we're going to add in some cumin seeds. Onions, cumin and butter. Delicious. Then we add in a little elaichi and mace powder. Once the onions are nice and translucent, we're going to add in some tomato puree. We're also going to add a pinch of sugar. Next, give it a good stir. Add a little bit of water. Cover it with a lid and cook for about 10 minutes. Now you can see the oil has separated from the tomato puree, which means that it's ready. Next, we're going to add in a handful of kasuri methi. This is fenugreek leaves. This is an essential flavor in the butter chicken. Mix that in. Also add in any of the leftover water from the chicken, or as we call them, resting juices. Give it a good stir. And allow this to cook for another 2 minutes. Now it's time to finish off our butter chicken. Our tomato gravy is nice, rich and thick. To this we're going to add our chicken and bacon that we cooked earlier. Give this a good stir. Now we're going to finish this off with a generous helping of cream. Mix that in really well. If you want it less creamy, add less cream. If you want it creamier, then well, go all out and add as much cream as you like. And look at that beautiful color on your butter chicken. And now we're going to finish it off with a sprinkling of coriander. And just maybe a little sprinkling of that cream as well. And that, my friends, is butter chicken baconized. Today I'm doing a white Murgh Makhani or a white butter chicken. So for this recipe you're going to need 250 grams of boneless chicken legs and thighs, I've cut them into long strips because that's how I've always eaten it in butter chicken. We're going to marinate this with a little bit of ghee or clarified butter, about a tablespoon, the juice of half a lime, 2 teaspoons of tandoori powder, and some salt. Now, two things. I'm using dark meat, that's the leg and thigh meat, because it cooks much slower and it remains tender and juicy. Breast meat tends to dry out a lot faster, so I don't like using that. Now if you don't have tandoori masala, just marinate your chicken with some red chili powder, some turmeric, some coriander powder, some garam masala and some cumin powder. That will suffice. Anyway, once this is mixed, just leave it for about an hour to marinate. Now we get a pan on the gas, and I'm using a frying pan because I just prefer cooking things in this. And we're going to wait for the pan to get nice and hot. Once the pan is nice and hot, we're going to put in a little knob of butter and watch that sizzle and melt, and we're going to put in and fry our chicken. Now like I said, originally butter chicken had tandoori chicken in it, so we want to cook this chicken, get a nice crust on it and just fry it. And this is again where the breast meat would dry out very quickly, so I wouldn't do this if I was using breast meat. I would just add the breast meat later and let it cook along with the gravy. Once the chicken is nicely cooked, we're going to put all of it into a bowl and set it aside for a few minutes. Now I'm going to add an even bigger chunk of butter in the pan and let that melt. To this I'm going to add some onion paste, about 75 grams of onion paste, which is just an onion blitzed up, and ginger garlic paste, about a teaspoon. Now just stir it and let it cook out for a good 3 to 4 minutes. During this process, we're also going to pour in the resting juices from the chicken and just let that mix in all, and let that all just mix in nicely. Once that's done, we're going to add in our chicken and cook that for a bit. Make sure you add some kasuri methi at this point, and that is what gives the flavor to butter chicken. Then we're finally going to add in our cream and just turn the gas off, mix it around, garnish it with some fresh coriander and a little bit of butter as well. And that's it, your butter chicken is ready. Your white butter chicken rather. No tomatoes used, less carbs. That looks good. 5 ingredient keto butter chicken. So to make the butter chicken, you are going to need chicken, butter, kasuri methi, tomato puree and heavy cream. The first thing I'm going to do is take the kasuri methi and put it into my food processor and blend it into a powder. Now I'm doing this because I feel it eats better this way in the dish rather than leaving it whole. Also, if you're wondering what kasuri methi is, it's dried fenugreek leaves. Now I'm using boneless and skinless chicken thighs for this recipe, but you can also make this with chicken breast, you can make it with chicken on the bone, no problem. So now I'm going to season the chicken with some salt and some black pepper, and I'm going to make sure that I season it on both sides. Now of course, if you have your regular Indian masalas at home like red chili powder, turmeric, garam masala, etc., you can use that and season the chicken as well. However, I can't do that because otherwise it won't be a 5 ingredient butter chicken, will it now? Anyway, once I'm done seasoning that chicken, it's time to cook it up. So now I'm going to get my frying pan on the stove and I'm going to heat up some avocado oil. And once that oil is nice and hot, it's time to put in our chicken. And we're going to cook the chicken thighs for about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. And you want to cook this on a medium to high heat so that you can get some color on that chicken. Now it's also important to keep in mind, if you use Indian spices like turmeric or red chili powder, you want to make sure that the heat is not too high, because the spices can burn and they will not taste pleasant at all. So anyway, just let that chicken cook for about 3 minutes on one side, And once it's done, make sure that you flip it over and just look at the color on that chicken. Oh yeah, it looks so good, and you want to make sure that it gets a lovely golden brown color. So anyway, once your chicken is done cooking on the other side and it's got a nice golden brown color on both sides and it's cooked all the way through, just remove it from the pan and set it aside on a plate. And now in the same pan, I'm going to add in the butter, and I'm also going to make sure I turn the heat down because I don't want the butter to burn. I also don't want the brown bits at the bottom of the pan from cooking that chicken to get burnt either. So just let that butter melt, and once that butter is almost melted, I'm going to add in my tomato puree. Now I'm just using a regular store-bought tomato puree. However, you can also just puree 2 or 3 tomatoes and use fresh tomato puree, no problem. Anyway, give that all a good mix, and now you want to mix it till the butter and the tomato puree emulsify and they become one. I'm also going to add in some water and give it all a good mix. And you also want to make sure that you pour in the resting juices from the chicken because that is where a lot of flavor is. Anyway, give that all a good mix, and now we're going to add in our kasuri methi, and I'm adding a very generous amount since this is the only sort of flavoring that there is, the only herb or spice. So anyway, give it all one final good mix, and now we're going to cover it and let it cook for about 5 minutes. Anyway, after 5 minutes, open that up and you will see that the oils have separated from the tomato, and we've got a lovely thick makhani gravy in the making. And now we're going to put in our heavy cream. So just pour that heavy cream in and then give everything a good mix. And once again, that butter, the tomato, the cream will all start to emulsify together, and you are going to have a rich and decadent makhani sauce or butter chicken sauce. And you just want to stir it and cook it for about another minute and then turn off the heat. And finally, I'm going to add in the chicken into the sauce. Now I'm adding the chicken in whole, but you can also just take a piece of chicken and chop it up, or you can use some scissors and cut pieces of it into the sauce, and then just give it all one final good mix so that all the chicken is covered in that makhani gravy. And now to serve myself, I'm going to put a few of those chicken pieces into a bowl, and then, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta pour that sauce right over. Oh yeah, that sauce is a thing of beauty. And I'm going to finally sprinkle it with a little bit of kasuri methi just for garnish and for photography, but it's really not needed. In fact, if I were you, I would throw in some fresh coriander if I had access to it. And again, I can't do it because, well, this is a 5-ingredient recipe and I'm all done with my 5 ingredients. Anyway, that butter chicken looks good. Enough jibber jabber. Let's go and taste it.